Alrighty, take two. First one I uploaded, the voice thread thing was like, oh, we can't upload that. So here we go, take two. Now, if this thing ends up on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, that means I couldn't get it on voice thread. I'm recording it on my MacBook this time, and then I'm going to upload it. If it doesn't work, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to put it on YouTube because I'm getting sick of re-recording this. Anyways, let's talk about Siete Años, or 7 years. So this movie is one of the films that we were supposed to review. This one was on Netflix. And just to give you a little bit of the idea of the movie, let me just say, we only have 5 characters in this movie. Literally 5 characters if you don't count the 2 or 3 extras and the cab driver at the end. Anyways, so we have 5 characters in this movie. I'll kind of go through them first. So the movie opens up with 4 people. And it shows them like all arriving separately at like this office. It's like one of those like modern offices. It's just the 4 of them. They got like, you can tell like the art director of this movie got all like, oh, you just Googled a bunch of pictures of what the Google offices look like, in Cupertino. And I was like, oh, that's pretty nifty. Let's just throw that in there. So it's like a combination of like modern, vintage, and just like things that don't belong. Like you got like a hand thing that looks like this that you put your little coat on and everything. Got tons of stupid stuff in this office. Anyways, most of it's impractical, but you can tell it's like to schmooze their clients. Anyway, so you got 4 people. The first one is a lady named Vero, I believe her name is. I forget how they pronounce it in the movie, but I think it was Vero, and it's played by Juana Costa. She was pretty good in the movie. I honestly thought she was Nelly Furtado, so from now on, because Vero is just so weird, I'm just gonna call her Nelly Furtado throughout the entire rest of the review. Anyways, you also have Marcel. Marcel is I should mention Nelly Furtado is the CFO in this company. They're all 4 of the people I'm about to mention are founders of this firm, which is a B2B business firm. They don't say that, but you can tell that's what it is. And they make some sort of like, I'm guessing it's a CRM software, customer relation management. It's like Salesforce basically, but like a, smaller version. Anyways, you have Marcel, who's played by a guy named Alex. I'm not going to pronounce his last name. He looks kind of like the stuntman for Daniel Craig. Then you also have Louis, played by Paco Leon. And Louis is the poor man's Mark Zuckerberg. He plays the computer IT guy that makes the software. And, they said, oh, your software made us millions. You can tell this guy thinks he's cool. He's got like the headphones on. He's got the long hair, completely imported from Cupertino. And then you have Carlos. Carlos is like this like muscle kind of guy. He's like, you can tell he's kind of a jerk. But anyways, I believe he's supposed to be a human resource officer. They never say what his actual role is. If they did, I must have missed it. But I think he's the human resource officer. Anyway, so you have this small firm. They're in this like modern office, and they all come in, and they're all kind of like somewhat cordial with one another, but you can tell they're all there. And then when they all get in, the Marcel guy's like, listen, he's there waiting for them. He says, listen, they are coming on Monday. And then who was it? Carlos, the muscle guy, was all like, well, what do they want? How much money do they want? And you never find out who at the beginning. And he says, no, it's not a matter of money. And, this kind of gets them all going. At first, I thought this was honestly, I didn't read what it was about before watching this movie. I thought it was going to be like some like heist movie or mafia movie, or, they somehow got involved with mafia or something like that. I thought it was going to be something like that. But it isn't. So anyways, they're calling people like crazy on their phone. It's like a montage of them, like, and then the Mark Zuckerberg dude Louis is like on the couch, like acting all like weird and indifferent, just looking at him like this on his MacBook, just typing. Anyway, so he's doing that. Carlos is swinging around a golf club, because that's what you do when you have a nice office. You beat it up and you swing around golf balls. and Marcel and Nelly Furtado are calling people, and now you hear Marcel. He's like really stressed out. He's trying to like work something up with some woman on the phone who's trying to hunt down some official. They don't tell you right away what it is, and then it goes into Nelly Furtado says, and this is really cool. She mentions Murphy's Law, which is basically, if you're not familiar with what it is, to whoever she's talking to on the phone, it's basically, if something could go wrong, it's gonna go wrong, and that's basically what this is. Like, so anyways, they're all kind of doing that, and real quick, I'll just mention this. I know we're not supposed to mention every scene, but deal with it. Anyway, so there's this one scene where Nelly Furtado is like all upset at Carlos because he like left his beer and like, because they've been at this office like literally all day, you can tell. And they're stressed out. He has comfort food, beer, and pizza. And she picks up the pizza box, and I look at it and I go, God, that is like the smallest pizza box ever. We talked about this in my international business class, like how the sizes of like food portions in different countries are like way off from America because, everything here is like supersized. Anyway, so while she's like screaming at him about his pizza box, there's like a knock on the door, and everyone just suddenly gets quiet, and you can tell like they're all like, "Who is that?" They're all freaking out like it's the Grim Reaper or something. And like up until this point, you don't know what they're stressed about, who's coming on Monday or whatever. But anyways, when they open the door, it's an older gentleman, and Marcel invites him in because Marcel was expecting him. The others, I guess, kind of knew he was coming or didn't know. I wasn't sure. Anyway, so they sit him down at the long table, and this is where the rest of the movie takes place. So they sit him down, and they basically offer him a contract to work at their firm, and he's going to start right now, immediately. And he's like he's there to moderate or mediate or whatever. He basically kind of like is like one of the board of directors where you would sit, and they don't have board of directors, but you would basically sit, listen to their ideas, and then like help them make strategic decisions. Anyway, so he's like, yeah, sure, but this is like more than double my rate, and like they're giving him a 10-year contract, so they want him to work like 5 days a week for the next 10 years. And he's like, okay, this is way more than what I was asking, but okay. So anyways, they do that, and you can tell this guy doesn't have he's okay, but he took a cab there. He doesn't have a lot of money, whereas these people are like disgustingly loaded. So anyways, it gets into it, and he goes, okay, well, I signed the contract and ready to work now. And then that's when they break it to him. So they're like, here's what we're dealing with, and he starts taking notes. So basically what happened is that they do that B2B business. They're fairly wealthy. They're working really hard, and I guess what happened was, and I hate to say this is kind of common, but they're working, and they're reaching a certain level of income for the firm. And what's happening is they hit the highest tax bracket, and they're getting like taxed to death. And they're basically getting sick of paying taxes. So what they're doing is the CFO, she got them all involved with it, and they're all down for it. Nelly Furtado is all like, oh, hey, I opened up a Swiss bank account. So what they do is they lower their income. They're basically kind of like decooking the books, I guess you would say, but they're lowering what their actual like income is on paper, and they're taking that like little bit of extra and they're throwing it in that Swiss bank account. And what's happening is that's basically like, it's like tax evasion. They're basically avoiding taxes. And I looked it up because I was bored and curious. Well, I wasn't bored, but I was curious. And there's like a 45% tax in Mexico for like the highest bracket. I don't know how relevant that information was. I think it was like 2 or 3 years old, but like I would be doing the same thing for 45% tax. Good Lord. I mean, you have here in America, you have like Warren Buffett who can do so many deductions that, he pays virtually no taxes, and these people are getting taxed 45%. I mean, I don't really blame them. It's illegal. Anyway, so what happened was one of the people that run the Mexican IRS, which is who's coming on Monday, you figure that out. because they're getting like they're being investigated right now, and they're going to get tipped off. So what's going to happen is, they're going to storm in, like you see in all the other things. They're going to storm into the offices on Monday, and they're going to be like taking and seizing computers and financial records and everything. And what's going to happen is, they're all going to get prosecuted and go to jail, which is why they're looking. All four of the founders are there. They're looking for one of them to make a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is they're going to get on one of their iPhones, go into the encrypted bank account, and basically move the money back. And what that's going to show is when those computers get seized, that person's going to take the heat for the rest of them, and then that person will admit to it, and then that will basically take pressure off the rest of them, and it will allow the firm to exist. So rather than the firm and all four of them getting prosecuted, only one of them will get prosecuted. Now, why the movie is called 7 Years is because they even say in the movie, if you do get caught with this tax evasion stuff, you're looking at 7 years in prison. And so the whole movie, that's the whole setup for the whole movie. The whole movie is basically them kind of like lashing out at each other and trying to figure out, who should go to jail and everything. And what's happening is, it gets interesting because all their dirty laundry starts coming out because they're all just going to stab each other in the back. So it comes out that this is where it gets good. So Nelly Furtado, the CFO, basically hasn't really been watching the books. And the reason why she hasn't been is because she's become involved in a hotel business. And what she's doing is she's taking her B2B clients there, and she's knocking boots with them in this hotel. So they're all like, and then she's all like, well, excuse me for having needs. And then, anyway, so that all plays out. And she's like, I am a woman, I have needs. And so anyway, so she goes running to the bathroom. And then the Marcel guy, who's the CEO, looks like Daniel Craig, comes in there. And he's like, I won't let anything happen to you. Yeah. Because me and you are like this. So he doesn't care that Nelly Furtado's, knocking boots with all these guys, because he's knocking boots with her and they're together. And the other two don't know that. Now, where that becomes a point of interest later is when that does come out, is basically the issue that, those two are together now, so they're going to vote against the two of us. Which one should go take the fall? It's not going to be either of them two, so they're against us now. So what happens is that Carlos, the muscle guy, that's the human resource guy, basically comes out and says like, oh, hey, by the way, did Marcel ever tell you about, what was her name? I forget. Anyways, it was an intern, and I guess they had hired an intern. I guess Marcel got a little handsy with the intern. And, so that happened, and then he was knocking boots with the intern, and I think she got pregnant. They gave her like a $20 bill and like sent her somewhere or something, but, so that happened, and like you can tell like Nelly Furtado was like, no, you didn't. She gets all upset about it, obviously, and so then they start lashing out at each other, and that's basically that part. And the Lewis guy is sitting there. The Mark Zuckerberg dude's like sitting there like, I am above all of you. You all act like children. He's all superior and everything. So then the Lewis guy that they bring in to kind of like consult with them is all like, oh, okay. Well, he starts getting out his pen. He's like, all right, so I'm going to do something. You have a gun in your hand, and you have to shoot the one that you want to go to prison. So which one do you want it to be? And, he has them holding this mythological gun. And like the guy, this Lewis guy, who you think is a normal person brought in to like, help them mediate or whatever, he suddenly turns into like the version of like the Mexican Jigsaw, so to speak. And he's like, live or die. You have to shoot one of them. Will you make the right decision? Will you do the right thing? Oh, live or die. And so it turns into like all that. So anyways, he basically gets him like trembling, and he's going around pointing this like finger gun. So anyways, I forget exactly how it happens, but they debate like tons. That's all this movie is. It's like them debating at the table. And so what happens is at the end they decide that Marcel is going to take the blame for it. They just keep wearing it down to nothing, and so Marcel's going to take the blame for it. Well, at the last minute, at the last minute, uh, they get a call from that girl that Marcel was talking to earlier, saying they're trying to find official or something. What happens is so like they were getting investigated, and there's one official that was writing a report on it, and if he publishes that report to the Mexican IRS or whatever they're called, basically they're going to come and get seized the computers and everything. Well, they were able to find him. The girl that works for the company was on the phone with Marcel, and they were able to bribe him. Now, unfortunately, this is a real thing. There's a lot of bribery in Mexico and like government and stuff like that. We talked about that in my international business class, but they're trying really hard to like not have that. That's how that I forget that Mexican drug lord keeps getting out of prison. Somebody keeps bribing. But anyways, yes, they bribe him. And the movie ends. Carlos, Jose, the older gentleman, is all like, "Oh, okay, well, now that I'm done monitoring for you guys, I'll see you on Monday. Thanks for the 10-year contract and all the money." And they're all sitting there like, they're all sitting there like that on the table, because what's happened is they were all like somewhat friends, but now like they hate each other. All their trust is broken. They're all knocking boots with each other. All their dirty laundry's out, and they can't even stand to be around each other now. Like, everything's destroyed. Their respect for one another. So whether that company's going to continue, since they're all in prominent roles, is beyond me. But that's basically how the movie ends. And then you just see Jose, the older man that brought in to consult for them, gets in this cab, and he's just driving away, and he's like smoking, and you can tell he's sitting there like he's tired, like, oh my god, these crazy people. But that's how the movie ends. And they bribe that person, so the investigation gets dropped, and that's it. And I guess we'll kind of go into my thoughts. So my thoughts are, the movie did hold my interest. It's not going to be for everyone. It is a drama, okay? Like, it's a drama. Some people get into it, some people don't. Some people need, like, Stallone and, like, a little rag top going, I am a man of war. Some people need that. But I thought the movie was good. It was a very dialogue-rich movie, so if you're trying to practice Spanish, it's probably a good movie to actually watch. It was interesting. I will say it was really short. It was an hour and 17 minutes, which in America, I can tell you right now, no movie studio would buy that. There's no way. Netflix bought it, but that's okay because Netflix streams. But if you were going to release that thing theatrically, there's no way that would happen in America. God forbid if it's not like an hour and a half long or an hour and 20 minutes long at most. No distributor is going to buy that. Other than that, the movie also, if you're going to produce a movie, this movie was really cheap to make, speaking from a filmmaking perspective, just because, you only have 5 characters, right? So that's only 5 actors/actresses you have to pay for, minus the girl on the phone, I guess maybe 6. It was all shot in one set. There was one street scene where they're just like walking, to the office, and then that's it. And then you see Jose, the old guy, leaving at the end and then get into a cab. But literally that's it. The whole movie took place in this office. So it was a closed set. It's cheap to light because once you set up the lights, you don't have to move them then. You don't have to have a permit. It's a closed set, so you can literally set it up and build the set anywhere and shoot as much as you want. So the movie was really cheap to make. There's no visual or practical effects, so, the finger gun, you didn't even have to buy a real gun. So it was really, really cheap to make, and they probably made it for very quickly and very low money. But I will say, production-wise, it was really well made. From a filmmaking perspective, the cinematography was really good. What they did was, when they first open up, they used handheld, which gives you kind of the shaky kind of look. It's common in horror movies and obviously the Jason Bourne series where it's like quick cuts and it's like all shaky and everything. They do that because what it does is it makes viewer feel like uneasy, kind of like if you're at sea, you know, you're constantly going up and down and like this. It has that same effect, and it makes you feel uneasy because you're supposed to feel uneasy because the characters feel uneasy. You're connecting with them. But like when Jose, the older gentleman that's consulting with them and is like telling them what to do and like, you know, playing all these little mind games with them, the camera movement gets on a dolly and it slowly moves, but it's perfectly smooth like this because what they're expressing is that he has control. You know, that they're setting out strategic things that have control, and it's helping them, you know, feel better. But anytime it gets like super, like the anxiety levels start to creep up in our main characters, they go back to handheld, which was honestly, from a filmmaking perspective, it's really smart. They had some subtle changes in color, you know, to express certain emotions. There were some blue tones and there were some red tones and some green tones for lust, greed, and then red tones for anger. It's like they played around. Just, I mean, you have to pay very close attention just to pick it up just the slightest, but it was really, really good. Acting wise, we'll go over that. Nelly Furtado, Vero was her real name. She was really good. The Marcel guy that looks like Daniel Craig, pretty good. Lewis, okay. He was whiny, but then again, that's kind of the way that his character was written. Carlos, man, you know, the muscle guy that's the human resource officer that covered up the intern. He felt like he didn't even belong in the movie. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt like he was in the wrong movie, maybe a miscast. I mean, he wasn't a bad actor, he just didn't feel right in the role. Like all of them, you could tell that you would believe that they're like somewhat successful, kind of snooty people, but he's more of a brute. So I don't think he really kind of belongs there. Jose, the older man, is really, really good as well. Like I said, the Mexican Jigsaw. Other than that, though, the movie was good. It holds my interest. I mean, in all honesty, I do watch foreign films, mainly Italian ones, but I do like. I'm big into foreign/international movies, and a few Japanese ones too, but mainly Italian. But anyways, yeah, the movie was really, really good. I recommend it. It was decently made. They didn't have to throw a lot of money into it. Cinematography was okay. It's pretty good. Script was tight. It got a little repetitive. Maybe I'll say that. Towards the end, like the back and forth, them lashing out. Towards like, thank God the movie's only like an hour and 17 minutes, to be honest, though, because towards the end, like around the 50 to 60 minute marker, oh, it just was like I wasn't gonna do it, but I was almost like, oh my God, click next, like skip 10 seconds ahead, like, you know, it got really kind of old quickly. But then again, I mean, you figure they're shooting in the same location, so it's not a change of scenery or anything like that, so you're literally relying on the characters and the dialogue to carry the movie. So but yeah, that's been my review.